Okay, we just pulled the lower oil pan off. He's got in his hands. Fortunately, we don't see any sludge, but look what we found on the pickup tube. Another piece of the timing guide that was missing, that broke off. Hey, we found more down there. Look at that, huh? Okay, so we got it all swapped out. We got the new guide and tensioner and chain. Went ahead and marked it with some paint, so I got it lined back up. It's all timed because I guess you gotta be careful. The camshaft for the fuel pump camshaft is timed. So we're gonna go ahead and finish. We finished scraping off all the gasket off the front timing covers. We're gonna flip the motor over, cover it up, put it off to the side, and then tomorrow we're pulling in the Land Rover. All right, we got our 2012 LR4 5-liter moved into the shop last night, so I can start tearing it down to pull the motor. So this is how it was when we got it. The missing pieces are in the back of the car. We did try to turn this over by hand, and it does bind up. So we figure there's either piston damage, something going on inside, maybe chain bound up on the timing. Just to give a history of it real quick, we bought it from a gentleman that said that 20,000 miles ago he had paid somebody to do the timing chains to it, and it started making some knocking noises, and then it wouldn't start. His mechanic tried to turn it over by hand. So obviously timing job done wrong, or gone wrong I could say. Don't know why. We'll take a look, get in there, see what exactly, if we can tell what they did on the timing job. But just in the essence of time, we decided to pick up a motor and use one with a 1-year warranty from a wrecking yard. Came out. So I'm going to show you the price difference. I'll post a screenshot of the price difference. So if I was to go get a used motor from a LR4 or Land Rover, then it would be about, I don't know, I think it was like $2,000 to $3,000 more than if I got the same motor out of a Jaguar. So the motor that we got is out of a 2012 Jaguar XF 5-liter, had 119,000 miles. This is a 2012 Land Rover LR4 with about 122. No, this one has 142,000, somewhere around there. So kind of give you an idea, we'll put in a lower mileage motor. Now we did rob the TCM, transmission control module, out of this for our $1,500 Land Rover fix. So we went ahead and ordered from the same company. We got a 2011 transmission with 116,000 miles on it, and a 1-year warranty as well. So we're gonna put this and the new engine, replacement engine, in it, and that'll give us basically a spare transmission minus the TCM and a spare engine once we determine if we can rebuild it, and then we'll do a rebuild on it. So we have a spare engine for either a deal that we come across, or in case we need one for future. We will probably be owning these for a while, so if one does fail, we can always have an engine on hand. So don't have a lift, so this is going to be a body on engine removal. And the way I figure out, because I've never done it, so my plan, pull off the whole front end here. I'm going to remove the hood because I'm going to use my gantry crane to remove the motor, pull off everything as if we're doing a timing job, all the way down to the fuel rails. I'll leave the fuel rails, injectors, and valve covers on. We'll pull the intake off so we have grab points. So we'll be removing that. We'll remove the whole front end, the top crossbar, radiator support. That's planned to remove that. I'll have to remove the fender flares on the front because we got to remove the front bumper. So bumper, headlights. We'll pull out the radiator and condenser as one unit, hopefully, and get everything. My goal is to have everything off the front clear, and then we'll be able to just pull the motor out, up and out. I'm going to see if I can pull the motor and tranny as one unit, see if that works. If not, we'll go from there. May or may not pull the wheel well liners. I've seen some places talk about pulling the headers off or the exhaust manifolds off, pulling the engine mounts off. So once I get everything pulled apart, we'll take a good look at it. I'm not going to show you every little thing, but I'll kind of show you things that I haven't shown in other videos or that I think might help you. So, all right, I'm going to put the phone down and start pulling apart the grill, the headlights, and the front bumper fender flares, and then catch up with you in a bit. Okay, I just wanted to point out something that we found on these Land Rovers. These clips, if you try to pull them up when they're dry, you end up bending them like somebody did on this one. So what we found, we just spray some WD-40 on it, and then take our needle nose pliers and lift up on it. You can see how much easier it moves. So just a tip. On to the next one. All right, we're moving right along. Got delayed because my other Tractor Supply jack failed on me. So had some trouble there. My Badlands jack doesn't fit underneath this one with the running boards when it's on bump stops. So I had to jack it up with an old jack high enough to get the Badlands underneath it. So I got to go into town this afternoon after work. And I'll probably pick up another floor jack for the shop. So that delayed me fussing around with it.
Not sure what happened, but we lost our audio. So I'm just showing how we moved out the side boxes where the battery tray goes, where the brake reservoir is. We got the air boxes out on both sides. The coolant reservoir tank is out. And we moved on and removed both headlights, both front fender flares, the front bumper cover.
Now I'm getting ready.
Remove the grill.
Remove this.
And then now we're getting ready to remove this radiator support. You want to remove these upper pins because we're not pulling the radiator out yet, but we need those locking pins that go on top. You have to remove them. And then you have several bolts that you have to take off. There's 2 at the top of the fender. This is on the driver's side. Then 1 down below those. Then 2 in the middle, towards the middle. And then you have 2 more on the other side. 2 there, 1 there, 2 at the top. These have little rubber O-rings on them. So pay attention to that. You don't lose them. And then once you loosen those off, you notice the header panel is loose and ready to come off. Just got to do some electrical connections. The electrical connections are here on the passenger side, on the back side. There's just 2 that you have to disconnect.
Okay, so I want to show something that's pretty cool. I mean, Land Rover expected somebody to have to pull this header panel off for some reason. So right underneath here on the driver's side, there's a little electrical connection, but then you see your hood cable here, hood release cable. Flip this up, and there you go. So you don't have to deal with that. We'll just disconnect this side, and that I don't have to mess with the latches at all. I'll be able to pull this right off. So yeah, we'll keep on going. All right, so now we're just disconnecting any wire connections. This piece here slides onto here. So you just slide it off, then just follow it along. And it's got little Christmas trees all along here. So you can disconnect it. This is the wire that goes to the cooling fan. This connector here is to your horn. There's only 1 connection for both horns. And then there's a connection here for the hood release. So, all right. I think this is probably ready to come right off. There you go. That's that. That is super easy. Now look at it. That almost makes pulling the radiator that much easier. Might have found a new way to do this. Refrigerant, but you can easily do this and then get to your bolts, pull your radiator out, and not have to fuss so much. We'll see. It's pretty cool. All right, so I just pulled the front bumper bar off, the steel part. Pretty easy. You got 4 number 13s. You can see top and bottom on each side. This top right one on the driver's side is holds on the washer reservoir tank along with 2 number 10s. So I kind of made a big mess with the tank. I should have drained it first, but yeah, you'll disconnect those 2 or remove those 2 bolts, remove that upper bolt, and then you got 3 wire connections to disconnect, and 2 hose connections to disconnect, and then it'll come right out. So try not to make a mess like I did. Over here on the passenger side, you'll see there's those 3 slots there, and they're beveled. So you just lift up on that valve block for the air suspension. This is the valve block for the front air suspension, and it'll just slide right up and out. No tools needed. So I got that set aside. I think that's probably gonna be it. Gonna see what I got so far, but I got a meeting I gotta go to, so we'll pick it up after that. Oh, look what I found down by the bumper. It's an old rusted, looks like a grenade pin for the tensioners. So maybe they did change out the tensioners. Who knows? Could be a lot of variables, but once we tear in there, we should be able to tell. So yeah, interesting find. Some of them you find lots of tools people drop and lose. Some of them you find some odd things like that. So that's a first. So again, try to put your bolts back as you're taking them out. That's my big recommendation. Just so you know where they're at and you don't lose them, because there's a lot of bolts that has to come out of this. So once I get back, I gotta go to a meeting, and then I gotta run into town and get probably a new jack and pick up some new glasses. So when I get back, we'll probably work on getting this section here out and the radiator condenser out. So then we'll have a completely open front. That's my goal anyways. And then we'll work on probably removing the intake. And once we get the intake off and the fan, I'll probably pull all the serpentine belt stuff off, get as much off that's easy to take off right now off the front of the motor, and then we will get it up on jack stands. And I got the engine oil draining right now. When we get back, we'll probably drain the transmission fluid and the transfer case fluid. So get all that oil out of there, because it's going to make a little bit, any little bit of weight reduction is good. So, all right, see you when I get back. Okay, so I'll give you an update. So there was no real reason to pull that lower, or that main bumper bash bar off. I was thinking I'd be able to get this off, but this piece here, unfortunately, appears to be welded, so it ties in the front rails, which is, kind of odd. But I don't know. I knew this part was welded in. This is your recovery point down here, so I was sure that was going to be part of the frame. But this I would have assumed to be replaceable. But it doesn't appear that way. I even loosened off the body mount bolt, thinking it might be sandwiched between the body mount and that. Nothing. It's just seam welded to the frame, it appears. So that's as low as we're going to get. I'm going to pull this little plastic air deflector thing. I went ahead and pulled the radiator out. That was super easy without that radiator support in there. Pulled the fan off first, then the lower shroud, then we disconnected our hoses, and then we pulled the radiator and condenser out as one unit. So you can see, gives us lots of room, looks really good. So we'll get this out of here, and then I'll probably pull off the thermostat housing, hoses, all the serpentine belts. We don't need any of that on there. That's just more stuff to get in the way. So we'll get all that out of there, and then for the engine on the top side, it should be just about it. Besides the intake, I think I'm going to do the intake in the morning. So tomorrow I can get up in the morning while I'm fresh, take the intake off, blast it out with air first, then take the intake off. Then we'll jack it up on jack stands. I'm going to drain the transmission fluid tonight. So then tomorrow I just got to drain the transfer case, and then we'll pull off the drive line. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this stuff off the front. You can see how it all sits in there. Nice easy view. There's our dampener pulley. I think I'm going to leave the dampener pulley on there. And I'll do it when it's out of the... We'll see. It's a lot of torque to put on it, and I'm hoping we can manage, but we'll figure out a way. All right. What are we going to do now? We're going to take all this stuff off. All right. I think I'm going to call it a night. Did a couple little things. I disconnected all my harnesses, all the fuel injectors, coils, both sides. Got all that disconnected, pulled off the thermostat housing, pulled off the dampener pulley. I was going to wait until I pull it out of the car, but with it being so tight, figured it's silly for me not to. I just put the block on there. So this thing does not rotate over. It rotates a couple turns at a time. So, we'll see. I don't know if I can do a full rotation on it. It binds up pretty quick, so we'll see. We're gonna have to figure out something. That's why I'm more open to pull it out with the transmission connected to it and get it all out, and then we can take transmission off and then get to the torque converter. But I'm not going to use the torque converter or the transmission on this one, as long as the flywheel and the flex plate is the same. Then I'll use the one that came with the engine, and then we'll use the torque converter and transmission that we got for a replacement. So yeah, I think tomorrow I'll pull the intake, fire up my compressor, blow all this crap out. Looks like a mouse was getting ready to live in it. So I'll blow all the crap out of there, get the intake pulled off, then just work on the bottom side. I'm hoping tomorrow night I'll have this tore down. So it's definitely easy to work on the timing with this whole front end out of the way. So I don't know. Anyways, I am going to call it a night. Got a new jack. Got a new jack, just put it together. It's nothing fancy. It's just a low profile one because my Badlands doesn't fit underneath this one because of the side steps and being on its bump stops. So this thing will work, especially it'll work when I work on the Ranchero. I need something low. So hopefully it holds up. Once I got out of the package, seems kind of cheapy, but we'll see. Anyways, I'm going to call it a night and we'll see you tomorrow. All right, it's the next morning. Just jumped right into it. But anyways, vacuumed it up. Then I took my air compressor and blasted air around it. There's still, doesn't get everything out of there, but hopefully it helps. I'm going to be rebuilding this motor if it's salvageable anyway. So, all right, to take it out, this is what I did. I took out all my bolts, number 10s. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each side, so a total of 10. There's 2 Torx 30 screws on the back of the manifold. I'll show you that once I pull it out. And then I slowly lifted it up, and I undid the clip here for this coolant line so I wouldn't break it. Then there's another one back here. I disconnected a vacuum hose right here. This goes to the back of, actually, looks like I might have broke that. This piece goes to the back of the intake. So you push in on the hose, push on the plastic piece, and then pull it out. It should come right out, and I'll have to look for that piece. And then what I did over here is I just tilted it out of the way and unplugged, where's that connector? Sorry, it's tucked down in there. This connector here, by lifting up, I just used a 90-degree pick, pulled up on this back tab, and that released it from that connector down there. So now it should be ready to pull out. Try it one-handed. Oh, looks like I still got one more connection. Oh, it's the coolant line. So see, there's one of the clips, two of the clips I took off. So I'm gonna pull the coolant hose out and then disconnect it. It should connect right over there. That'll be kind of challenging, but we'll get that, and then the intake's out. All right, just wanted to give you guys a little update. I was busy ordering that vacuum hose, trying to identify the right one. So I got it on order. If I need to, I'll modify the one I had, but went ahead and removed the front crossover pipe, the water pump, just to get stuff out of the way. Went ahead and removed the rear crossover pipe. That one took a little bit of time. And then I fabricated this little bracket out of some angle iron I had. There's no real good lifting point. I may move this back to the next ones, but just looking at it, I don't want to be dealing with this, so I'll have it back there. And I'm going to also have an anchor point probably somewhere like here where the tensioner goes into, and over here somewhere. We'll see. But yeah, that's what I have so far. That should get us a good lifting point, and then I can always move it back if I need to. And then I'm using two points of attachment. Got it all threaded all the way in, so I'm using as many threads as possible. So that's where we're at this. I think my next step is to get this thing up on jack stands and finish draining the fluids and disconnecting the drive lines. So I'll see you. All right, believe it or not, we got it out. We got the engine, transmission, and transfer case out, all as one assembly from our 2012 LR4. I got it pushed back slightly. You can see there's nothing in there. So it wasn't too bad now that we know how to do it. We're estimating it'll probably take us 2 days to pull it like this. But you can see, we ended up pulling the valve covers off. It was either pull the valve covers or remove the differential. And we chose to do the valve covers. It's a lot easier. So what we're going to try to do is figure out something to seal up the valve covers. We're going to be pulling this engine apart, so I wasn't too worried. But we're going to figure out something to cover up the valve covers while we put it in, so that we don't get any debris in there as we're loading it. But it actually came out really easy. Fuel connections. So nice and easy. You got your high pressure fuel pumps up here, and that's hardlined all along the transfer case transmission. And then right where it goes, the fuel tank sits right here. You just got 2 quick disconnects. So I ended up taking off all this harness stuff that I didn't need to. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to stabilize it, and then take some of the tension off the strap. I think we'll probably replace the strap with maybe some kind of a short cable binder or a chain binder, just to be a little bit stronger. But yeah, we're going to lower it down, remove the transfer case, remove the transmission, and then we'll be able to work on the engine and kind of see how we got it mounted. We hooked 2 points on the front of the engine, and I made a bracket for the middle, and brought the engine harness and everything with it. So we'll be able to put the engine harness on the new engine, and that'll make it a lot easier. These are for your evap and fuel. So we'd have to fish up under behind this. That's what I was thinking I might have to do. But then I found the connections right at the fuel tank. So super cool. All right. We're going to stabilize this and start tearing apart. Okay, so we got the 2012 LR4 5-liter hanging here. We got the transmission off, got the transfer case off. We're trying to rotate the engine to get the torque converter off, but it's binding up. We've gotten 2 of the 4 bolts out, so we went ahead and pulled the timing cover off, and so far it looks like they changed the tensioners, the guides, but I don't know if they changed the tensioners, but if they did, we got a failed tensioner. You can see Jenna moves it, it's not coming back out. So this side is just moving like that. But if you look at this side, this one's staying out. You put a little tin. These are supposed to ratchet, so even if there's no oil pressure like there is now, it still won't go down. So this one will. This one does. So I'm definitely got a failed tensioner. From what I can tell in there, they changed out the guides to the updated ones, but once we get in there, we'll verify the buttons. So far, my guess, without going more into it, the tensioner failed, and it probably put enough slack in the chain to where we bent the valve, but she's binding up right now. Fortunately, we can only get 2 of the 4 bolts out, so we need to be able to get the torque converter off, to get the flex plate off, to get the rear oil pan bolts off, to get the oil pan transferred onto the new one. So little dilemma we got here, but we'll figure it out. All right, so it's the next day. and here's where we're at. We're going to get the engine to rotate around enough to get two of the torque converter bolts out. So we need to get the torque converter off, the flex plate, in order to get the oil pan off, which we need the oil pan off to put on the new engine because we pulled the engine that we got is out of a Jaguar, so the oil pan's set up different. So we have to transfer the pickup tube and the oil pan. So what I'm going to do is pull off all the timing parts in the front. We disconnected the chain. I'll rotate it around here. We disconnected the chain on this side. You can see we took it off the gears, but it's still will rotate. So I'm thinking a valve dropped or broke, and something's sitting on top. It comes up on the piston and doesn't rotate. So can't get a full revolution out of it. Only about half a revolution. So what I'm gonna do, we'll pull all the timing off the front, and then I'll pull this cylinder head. I'm pretty sure it's on this side. I think either the timing wasn't done right, and it busted a valve, or which when that happened, it destroyed the tensioner on this side, or the tensioner was not replaced. He just replaced this, and the tensioner failed, and failed tensioner created a bunch of slop, jumped a gear or tooth, and damaged the valve. So we'll see a little more once we pull this cylinder head off. But like I said, pull this off. We've got to pull the cams off to get the bolts out, and I might need actually a special tool to get the head off. I can't remember, so I've never done that part. So that's where it's at. Yeah, we need that oil pan. All right, until when we get this tiny stuff off, I'm not going to bore you with that. We'll get the tiny stuff pulled off. I'll pull the camshafts off, and then we'll see if we can get these heads off, or if I got to order a special tool. All right, we got the cylinder head off, and definitely broken valve. And we come over and see what's left of the valve. Looks like it was a number 244 cylinder, but if you look closely, it looks like we had valve contact on multiple cylinders. This one I'll clean out. So that is what's left of the valve. It looks like part of the valve stem. So that just beat it. It doesn't look like it put a hole or broke the piston, but it definitely put some valve release in there, didn't it? You can see, I don't think you're supposed to have that there. So, surprisingly the engine's not carboned up, but yeah, definitely timing failed and caused some busted valve. Alright, so I'm going to get this cleaned up and then make sure we can rotate it over. Hopefully we don't have to pull the other side off too, and we'll go from there. Alright, so got the piston on the downward stroke, and surprisingly, as you can tell, I would have expected some pretty good gouges in the cylinder bore itself, but as you can see, I don't see it, considering how the flat part of the valve is completely missing. I don't feel anything through the rubber glove. I'll take some measurements and then clean it up, see if it's salvageable. The block anyways. But yeah, definitely I'd probably replace all the pistons, or at least this one. I have to do the inspection on the other ones. Check the rod, that might have got bent. Getting beat on a valve for that long. But yeah, basically that's all I could find left of the valve. See, it's pretty small pieces, so it chewed that valve up, spit it out. Again, you can see valve contact on all 4 cylinders. So definitely not a good timing job on it. Alright, we're not going to be going any further. What I'm going to do is work on this engine. We're just going to put the cylinder head back on, get it back up in the air so I can finish taking the torque converter and the valve and the oil pan off. I verified I could rotate it around now, so the other side doesn't look like we lost anything on the other side. So that's a good sign. But you just, we'll pull the head off when we go to do this, but we'll check all of our clearances and make sure, if we need to, if there is any imprints. It's kind of surprising. It's hard to say what failed. So in my mind, I would say there's two options. He changed the chain and the guide rails because they are updated guide rails, but he didn't change the tensioner, and the tensioner failed, and we had valve contact. Especially considering his previous owner said it ran for about 20,000 miles before he started hearing a knock. So that makes me think, well, if it ran quiet for 20,000 miles, then his initial timing was okay. But I think, like I said, two options. He didn't change the tensioner, and the tensioner failed, and we had valve to piston contact dropping a valve. The other option is that he did replace everything and didn't time it properly, and we dropped valve to piston contact, which destroyed the tensioner when the chain got tight. So two scenarios I can imagine. If you guys think of anything else, let me know. But yeah, definitely a catastrophic failure. Don't know if this engine's salvageable. There's a lot of parts on here I can salvage. Again, I'm going to use one of the camshafts on our other engine because it's damaged, and then we'll go from there. Nothing else. If the block's not salvageable, we can use a lot of the hardware off of it. Might be able to salvage the piston or the cylinder heads. I'll clean them up. Well, who knows? Maybe we rebuild the whole motor. My original plan was to rebuild this whole motor and have a ready-to-go motor if we found another good deal, or one of our engines needs a replacement. So we'll see. All right, I'm going to bolt up the head again, get it back up on the hoist. Just got it sitting on a wood frame right now, but we need that oil pan off. So, all right, let's get to it. All right, so it's the next day. We had to call an early day yesterday. Had to go into Carson City for some doctor's appointments for the kids. But new day. So what I'm going to do is pull these two high pressure fuel pumps off. And then pull the flex plate off. Then we should be able to pull the oil pan off. Once we get the oil pan off, we'll set this probably off to the side and bring in the new engine and start putting it together. First I want to do is put the oil pan on it, get it all sealed up, and we'll flip it right side up and should be able to assemble the timing parts. Put all new timing parts in it and go from there. Alright, so we got the flex plate off. Now, to get to the oil pan bolts, which are behind this cover plate, which contains the rear main seal. So we'll zip these 8 screws out and finish taking the oil pan off.
But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one when we start putting it all back together.